The Todd Shapiro Show.
Time to hit the button!
On Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
And Dan being from Minneapolis and Lance being from Southern Cal.
Warriors fan, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know I'm originally from Northern California, so I can't keep that inside.
What are we going to do here? I don't know.
At least not the Lakers.
Yeah, I don't know. No, but you're playing the Rouse right now. And are you watching the series? Are you watching it?
Dude, I am. And then I got in a little late last night, so I was having a bite to eat at the hotel, and everyone in the hotel lounge where I was eating was watching the game, and they're rooting them on. And every time we get a point, I'd be like, woo! Just kind of a quiet.
Yeah, you
I
don't
know
want to
Canadians
cheer
are
too
friendly,
loud.
but still, there's a couple of big guys in tight shirts that were in the audience there. So
Leave the Durant jersey in the closet.
Yeah,
in the hotel room.
100%.
Well, and he's not playing. Are you going to be one of those Warrior fans who makes excuses that if we beat you, you didn't do it with their top guys?
So
A JV title, maybe. Yeah.
may the best team win, but slight handicap.
Here we go. You guys beat the Cavs without Lowry and Love one year, right? So,
That's true, yes.
So, it's this your karma. It's still very early. Very exciting stuff. So let's talk more about the business stuff. You guys in town for the Lifted Expo. What's that like?
It's good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. We both did it last year, which is kind of nice. We try to get Dan out of the office as much as possible. He enjoys it. He thrives when he's out of the office. So for him to be back joining us again this year is awesome. But it's definitely, we were just up here for Cannabis. Cannabis,
is there a difference in these two expos?
There is, and I always took it as a different way. I always thought Cannabis was a little bit more on the fun, a little less business, and Lift the other way, but it's kind of opposite. Cannabis was more of B2B and a little less focus on the consumer, whereas Lift has a good balance. They have 2 days essentially that are B2B, and then the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, is B2C. There's still business going on, but yeah, it's a bit more diverse. So
and are there some new companies even in this thing this year that you might not have recognized from years past? Are there some bigger players coming down?
Well, there always are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that's part of why you want to see them or go to the show is to see the new stuff. And a lot of times it's going to be a surprise. But I'd say the other just kind of feel from the community standpoint, it's almost like a homecoming. There's an element of business to it, but there's also very much a group of people, like-minded, enjoy the same things. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is, and it's a great crew, really across the board in the cannabis industry. You guys not touching the plant, obviously, at bovedainc.com, but you want it to keeping it fresh for every sort of producer or LP and stuff. So how do you guys go, Dan and Lance? Like, how is it that you go and approach these big LPs now to say, hey, are you not using Boveda? Like, we gotta have a conversation here.
It's interesting. It's you have two different approaches, and this is why it's so nice to have Dan here, because we talk about it oftentimes in marketing where you have push and pull. So sometimes you really have to push that message out. Other times it's being pulled into you. The Canadian market is unique. I was just having a conversation with an LP this morning that, as overall, I'm just kind of stereotyping, but Canadians are looked at as so friendly, a little passive, laid back, easygoing. This is the most vocal group to share their opinion on the condition of weed compared to anywhere else I've been. I mean, very this stuff's too dry. I'm paying too much money. It's taking too long to get to me. So we've actually had quite a few LPs that have approached us and said, we need a remedy because we're getting too many complaints. That's going back to the OCS. Once the OCS catches wind of this, that might be bigger problems for us. So we need something to solve this problem of dry flower. And then it gets into conversations around terpene retention. That's really our goal is save the terps. I couldn't put it any better. When you have that evaporation of terpenes, all of a sudden you're losing the overall quality of the flower, no matter who it is. So yeah.
I think that should be your new hashtag, by the way. Hashtag save the terps.
Save the terps.
Yeah, there's a ring to it for sure.
It definitely works. So I mean, the word's getting out. Obviously, Boveda. No one touches you. It's such a unique product. It's so effective. It works so well. Does that feel good in a space where there's still a lot of uncertainty and people sort of pushing things that were still kind of sketchy, and certain stocks, let's be honest, that peers pump and dumps and maybe not quite what we're expecting. So because there's a lot of fear still within the industry beyond the stigma now. Forget about the stigma because that's actually ending. There's still fear within the industry. You guys have a proven commodity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for over 2 decades. And that's one thing that both of us have had ties to Boveda specifically before coming on with the companies themselves. But you're right, we are very well established, and we've set the standard, and not just in other industries, but specifically in this one. And so people recognize that, but we are very humble about it. We know that we don't want to rest on our laurels. We want to continue to be not one or two, but 4 steps ahead and be thinking proactively. And the Canadian market, again, has a big influence. Dan will tell you, many of our conversations with the leadership team, we get into talking about what the needs are for these large-scale LPs because they're going full automation. And if we can't conform to full automation, then all of a sudden our technology doesn't seem
Sorry to interrupt you. What do you mean by full automation? I don't actually understand that.
So it's been a very manual and tedious process. As much as people think that it's easy. Just grow flower, put it in a jar, throw it online, OCS ships it to your house, etc. But there's so many elements that go into it, from the grow all the way through to cure, to dry, to packaging, to distribution, etc. And while the flower goes through this process, even just focusing on cure to consumption, which is where we come into play, that could touch several hands, multiple hands in that chain of custody before it gets to your front door or to your mailbox. So that's where the big issue is coming in. And again, there's a lot of LPs that want to bring as much efficiency as possible along the way. So they're going into full automation. I mean, literally, like we have a strategic partner, Paxium. They manufacture this assembly line equipment.
Yeah.
So it does weighing, it does sorting, it does dropping. So if you've ever watched How It's Made, which is a cool show you can find online, but is actually filmed up here in Canada, they go to a lot of factories and show you how things are produced. It's the same thing where you see automation on a show like that. They're doing that real type of automation in LPs in Canada, and they're some of the leaders in the industry doing that.
So that's what they're looking to do, to grow the flower that way, where it's not a lot of human hands touching it.
Yeah, so instead of having a human literally putting a Boveda pack in the jar, have a machine do it. Just a lot more efficient and takes out some failure points.
Will they be able to like pick the flower apart through automation too? Like, will they be able to, because I've toured a couple LPs in the day, and it's all human hands doing the work right now.
Well, it is, and the human touch isn't going to go away, right? So it's some things, there's certain, we'll just pick on one strain, which is a phenomenal strain that is very much a hands-on strain. It's called Forbidden Fruit. In Forbidden Fruit, the way that the plant creates these flowers, they're beautiful buds, but they can't be put through an automated trimmer. So it can't go through a machine where, have all these different types of machines, but it can't go through a machine. A person still has to do it by hand. So there is going to be that continuum, I think, in certain levels where it has to be hands-on. But yeah, they are getting machines that literally, in Vegas, there's an operation where it's like robots from an assembly, from a car assembly line. It's taking the clone and dropping the clone into a cube, and then putting that cube on a deck, and then lifting that deck to a third story, and then going to the second story.
There's some pretty chilled out Transformers, they're not getting in fights and everything. There's they're really cool. They're cool with it,
Very
They're
true.
like,
Very true.
Lance Lambert and Dan Cleveland are here with us from Boveda, BovedaInc.com, 2-way humidity control packs, keeping the flower fresh. So the touch aspect and the growth of the industry then is we're showing. Will that create premium brands then versus maybe a Walmart type of brand that's just going through an automation, quick, get it out there? Whereas a strain like you just said, that's really got to put a lot of care and love into it. Will we start seeing sort of price differentials because of that?
Yeah, it's going to go micro, macro. And Dan was at an event, a local event last night that he was speaking of, and we were on the car drive over, and we're talking about this trip we're doing to Northern California this summer for a couple of events for Northern Nights and NCIA too. One's more music focused, one's more of industry focused. And I was like, I really like for us to stop by this. We've been invited to take part in this event, this thing going on in a town called San Rafael. And I'm like, if you don't know, San Rafael is where the Waldos came from. Like, that's by where I grew up in San Anselmo, the town next door. And so San Rafael is where the Waldos are from. Well, the Waldos are the guys who started 420. So that whole 420, literally the expression 420.
You told us about this a couple
they went
years
to
ago.
Drake High School, right? Yeah, we talked about it. And so the fact that Dan is like, I saw that last night on a hat, and I think it's owned by Canopy. I'm like, yeah, that is their premium brand. So you're seeing LPs that are actually they're swooping up on smaller LPs or picking up other licenses, and they're going after a good, better, best model, as we call it in marketing. And so they have that more, to your point, more of the Walmart, then maybe something a little higher up, maybe more of a Target, and then something that gets more into the Nordstroms, Neiman Marcus for your clothes purchase. So that's the direction it's going. And micro macro is a factor too.
You guys have been around so long now and so closely associated to the industry. Have you watched a lot of businesses fail though? Like, they were at an expo a couple of years ago, and they're just sort of not around anymore?
Oh, absolutely. The economics of the industry are pretty tough. in Canada, obviously, you all have a little more standard rule set, but especially down in the States, there are some areas that it is really tough to maintain profitability, and oftentimes these growers are starting off with not a lot of investment, so it's their sole source of income, and it's it's their own venture. So you're going to see a lot of weeding out of this of the crop.
Is that a pun?
Doing it. A little bit of a pun, maybe. But that's unfortunate. That's also part of what we're trying to help with as well. And another part of the way that this plays in is lowering costs, not just from maintaining the weight of their flour and getting the right value of that, but even finding ways to reduce like their insurance costs by if they're using humidity controlled products to avoid the risk of mold and recalls or other types of problems like that to get their premiums down. Just giving them more margin to live with, to play with, is one of the things that we're all pulling for, obviously.
But people got to be careful also then about sort of where they invest their dollars. Because you keep hearing investment, guy got rich, they're getting rich, but there are you do have to be careful because I guess it could be a bit oversaturated at times, and everyone is kind of like gets excited and wants to jump in, but maybe not sustainable.
Yeah, you have to put your money on the right horse, but sometimes you don't know the stats for that horse, right? Because it is such a young industry, and exactly at Dan's point, unfortunately, we have seen some companies go curbside. Up here, you have a lot of larger LPs that are buying out medium LPs, ones that have some sort of name or brand or some sort of recognition associated. So beyond the value of the license itself. And then unfortunately, we always compare Canada to California, but California, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing a lot of the smaller boutique growers and farmers just close up shop because it was expensive enough, to Dan's point. Some of these guys are paying $100,000 just to be on a temporary license until the permanent licensor regs came. And that's where guys are having to step out and can't afford to continue.
Well, we just got about a minute here. In 30 seconds or less, I guess. How many employees now at bovedainc.com? How many you guys are at?
Well, full-time W-2 employees, who call it that way, are probably in the 45 zone.
Unbelievable. Isn't that great? And then like sales reps outside of that too? Or
we have some contract employees that expand beyond that number.
Because I was just sort of thinking, the one real beautiful part about the industry, and Lance and I have talked about this in the past, is the opportunity for job growth, right? But you don't see that ever. I'm always amazed. The States talks about how job growth is so great, and Trump obviously brags about it and stuff. But, why not share a little bit that a lot of it's because of the cannabis industry?
It is. The tourism, the jobs, the prosperity, all of it ties back to this as well.
But Canada, I think, is going to be a great model for us to look at when you see what happens with Canada, both on the big corporate side and then within all the micro licenses, the micro grows that allow these entrepreneurs to start out. And it's a lot more friendly, I think, in Canada, from my perspective, than most states in the U.S., allowing those micro growers to actually start and build their brand that way.
We're a bit of a guinea pig, I'm sure, but one that I can't imagine the state's not completely following one day. And it's one of the stuff that repeatedly we learned from Lance and from your entire team at bovedainc.com, and that's why we love chatting with you with all the sort of news going on in the cannabis space. Please enjoy Toronto, enjoy Raptor Fever, enjoy Jurassic Park, maybe even get to... Are you here Monday? Are you going to leave before Monday?
I'm going to leave before Monday, but stop by the booth. We're at booth 1126 at Lyft. It's downtown, the convention center in the heart of Toronto, and come by and say hi, get some free samples.
Excellent. Is that liftexpo.ca? Is that the website there?
I believe so.
Okay, and if not, just type in Lift Expo on Google and look for the Boveda Inc. team, bovedainc.com. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, Lance.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks to Dan and Lance.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.